The Heart of the Arts program is a Midtown initiative bringing art to the forefront of the Midtown district. Its first activation includes utilizing empty storefronts to enhance the pedestrian experience while also supporting artists. So we have 7 artists who are exhibiting their work to brighten up our streets and inspire our community.
This installation piece for me was really about just making something that feels good, to be honest. As far as like hope goes, I just wanted to bring in very simple scenes of what people do in their everyday lives that can be leaned on to find inspiration, to be motivated, to keep going.
My piece, I see it as a kind of memorial to Sequoia Turner, an 8-year-old who was shot and killed during the protest in Atlanta last summer. I see it as a visual of peace and to see what we can do as a community of people to make sure we're keeping our children safe.
My work includes an elder figure, an essential worker, an educator, and then a mother sharing her flowers with her daughter, and the importance of giving compassion, praise, and love to individuals who have been making a lot of sacrifices.
My storefront installation is really about growth and rebirth, inspired by nature. I just want the public to be encouraged, and if they're in a time where they're down, then that they could wait for the time of growth, although the time currently may not reflect that.
My installation is about young black girls having the freedom to envision a future that they see themselves in. So I would like for young black kids to see themselves in a future where they're thriving.
My window installation focuses on the relationship between me and my sister. And she's been so important to me, such a resource during this stressful time. So I just wanted to capture that relationship in this painting. I would like the public to look at my installation, and I hope that that positive relationship is something that they can relate to in their own lives.
My storefront installation, it's really a meditation on this very moment. We're living in a time where it's difficult and unsafe to be with the ones we love. So my hope is that you experience a feeling of serenity and peace as you walk by this 50-foot wall.
These commissions were an urgent response for Midtown Alliance in the wake of the pandemic and the economic and social climate that really surrounded that. We felt it was important not only to employ artists immediately, but also to really quickly put some energy in and activate the street level in Midtown. Midtown sidewalks are the heart of our community. So for us, it's always important to create those little moments of surprise and delight and to create that activity. But when we do that with art, it just happens in such a meaningful way. You're not only activating the street with these kind of moments of fun or joy, but you're also giving the community members really kind of a way to dial into humanity.
Welcome back. Hello again, I'm Floyd Hall, and welcome to Midtown Heart of the Arts. This is episode 2, entitled Colorful Evangelism. I want to lay out just a bit of a roadmap for what we're going to be experiencing this afternoon. You just saw Lauren at the end of that video. You'll hear from Lauren later on in this conversation, along with Gene Kansas. They have a big announcement to make, so stay tuned for that. You also hear from all of these 7 artists who have been involved in Heart of the Arts, and we'll talk about their work, some of the themes in their work, and just some of the backstory behind what they've created for this moment. And at the beginning of the video, we had a bit of a glitch there, which actually, that word will come back up later on in the conversation, so I'm kind of glad that it happened. The word glitchy, so to speak. But at the very beginning of that video, you saw Netta Abgari, the curator. And for those of you who may not know, Netta is the driving force creatively behind this initiative. Netta is a curator, a consultant, an advocate who is native to Atlanta. And for over 2 decades, she's been a staple in the arts community. You may know her from the Creatives Project. You may know Netta as a friend, an educator, a mother. But through all of that, she's really been the galvanizing voice to help kind of spur this on. And so just wanted to highlight Netta and her work as a curator and bringing these artists together and really creating this platform for us this afternoon. So again, just wanted to recognize Netta, but really jumping into the heart of this program, it's about the artists and what they've created for this moment. And as we jump into those conversations, we're going to have videos of each of the artists talking about their work, so you can get a bit of a sense of what they created and some of the thought that goes behind that. So we're going to start off with Chioma. So Brian, could you run Chioma's video, please?
When individuals see my installation, I want them to be still, think of their loved ones, think about the love that they've been giving to themselves this year. Take a moment to be proud of the work that they put in, how they helped their community, and to move forward knowing that it's important to take a moment of peace, and it's important to still continue to do the work that we've been doing during this time.
Hello, Chioma, how are you?
I'm good, how are you?
I'm great, glad to have this time with you. First of all, the title. You know, we live in a space where we've been sort of separate from one another over the last year, but the title of your work in reference to giving people their flowers while they're still alive. Talk about that title and what that signifies, because for me, I feel like that gives a bit of a sense of acknowledgement, of urgency, of timeliness. But from you, when you're thinking about that title itself, what was sort of front of mind for you?
I heard it from my friend Gabby at the beginning of the pandemic when things felt really scary and a lot of things felt uncertain. And we were out and about, and my friend paid a compliment to somebody. And I laughed, and when I laughed, they said, well, it's important to give people their flowers while they're alive. And so when Netta came to me with this opportunity, that was at the forefront of my mind about the importance of just considering your own community, considering your support system. My friend Gabby is a main contributing factor of my support system. And the importance of letting people know their importance to you, of letting them know that you appreciate them, of checking in on them, of providing a safe space and of holding space. And so, yeah, I wanted to make something that paid an ode to that and my friend Gabby. So it's like, I even included Gabby in the mural. Gabby's the educator. They do a lot of work with Black students, and I'm really appreciative of them for the work that they do and stuff. So yeah, I just wanted to pay respect to the people that I've been coming across during this time too, that are also going through a difficult time trying to figure everything out, and who are helping their community and also need space held for them. So yeah.
You know, I think that perspective also relates to memory in a way. You know, I think if we speak to how we honor folks and their memories and how they, you know, affected our lives, so much of what happens when we think about funerals or moments of loss, that's when everyone comes out to say how great this person was or what they did for them 10 years ago. And you bring your flowers and you lay those flowers out. But the bittersweet part about that is that person may never ever hear that, you know? And so being able to take some agency and to be timely with a compliment, some acknowledgement, just really, I think it's almost like creating like living memories. Like, hey, I had this memory of you, but I want you to have this memory and know what you mean to me now. And I have to wait, many, many years in the future. And just in thinking about that, how do you process just like that, like living memories, like ongoing memories of relationships, of friends, of moments that may have been significant for you?
I feel fortunate enough that my friend space and that my relationships, I have a lot of people around me who have constantly and consistently let me know my effect on them, let me know their truth, and have asked me to hold space for them. I'm very appreciative of my friends for setting boundaries, holding space, and sharing laughter and moments with me and things like that. And I don't know, I feel like not the beginning, but like this entire time, we've all been experiencing a lot of loss and an unexpected, unprecedented amount. And I think it's affected, I know it's affected me in a way that I didn't know that it would have. Because at the beginning, I didn't realize it was going to be more than 2 weeks, And so I'm trying to think. I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. Just one moment, I apologize. The importance of holding space, and when thinking about loss and thinking about living memory, I want everybody to know how I feel about them and what effects they have had on me throughout life, And I think that right now, with the amount of separation that has been going on and our inability to physically be present with loved ones at times, it's important for me to let others know, no matter where you are, no matter what you're going through, no matter where your mental space is, you still hold value here. You are of importance. I see what you're doing. I'm still proud of you. And no matter what your struggle is or battle is, whether you tell me or not, just know that you are deserving of space, of acknowledgement. You are deserving of rest and of peace, and to be celebrated. Even with everything that's going on, you still deserve to be celebrated and more. Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you, Chioma, for your work. Again, for our audience out there, give people their flowers while they are alive. That's both the work and a directive that we should all be thinking about as we move forward. Thank you for your work, Chioma. And I really appreciate this conversation with you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Next up, we have Kaylee. Brian, could you play Kaylee's video, please?
My storefront installation is called Riri, and it's really about growth and rebirth, being inspired by nature. So while I was in quarantine in the beginning of the spring last year, I had the privilege to be outside and be really inspired by nature, of growth and of stillness and of death and rebirth. And I wanted the artwork to reflect that and interact with the different seasons and the passings that the city goes through, and how that could be incorporated and be encouraging to the viewers of Midtown.
Kaylee.
Hello.
Hey, how are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm good. Your work, Riri, I want to know where did you spend your time in nature? You mentioned in that clip that you had a chance to be in nature. Where were you? What was that experience like for you? And maybe say more about how that impacted you.
Yeah, so I actually started off in Chicago where I was teaching, and then I had to quickly come back home during that time back to Atlanta. So it was frozen and snowing in Chicago, and when I came back to Atlanta, everything just was, I was greeted by all these things blooming. So that's kind of how I got to spend some time outside. So yeah, in the neighborhood, actually. Yeah, I didn't really go far. So in Atlanta, in the neighborhood, yeah.
In one of our prior conversations, I know you mentioned that Atlanta was blooming during that time period. The flowers were in bloom. This is, probably about a year ago at this time. And what that made me think about is that Atlanta as this city is kind of always in bloom in certain ways. I think there's this feeling of evolution and things unfolding. But we had a chance to go through a full year of seasons at this point. So in reflecting on like your work and acknowledging the seasons and a change, how do you reflect, now on sort of that moment last year at this time and kind of like the different seasons of change that we went through?
Yeah, well, I think with Atlanta being always blooming, in some ways in my work, it also addresses the changes that also happens in death. Although the pieces are of bright colors and lots of flowers, there's also this chaotic element to it where kind of don't know what's going on, or many pieces coming together. So I think the idea of growth in that also starts to, for me, address some of the things that I personally addressed in my works previously. And I think also subliminally within this mural, where for me, idea of identity and place plays a huge role as an immigrant who came here when I was 12, and just becoming or finding a place of growth and belonging within the confines of America, and specifically when I was in Atlanta for 7 years. And Atlanta became this place that really embraced, for me, in my personal experience, all these different cultures, and also such an historic place that understood the pain and the growth that it took to become this blooming metropolis. So just with the idea, with what we have gone through for the whole year of this pain and this grief, that just like the seasons and like nature, things move on and things rebloom and things grow. With death comes also life. And so in this really poppy, bright mural, I'm hoping to address some of those ideas of the growth and where within grief growth happens, and within death life happens.
For our audience out there, can you maybe share some sense of where you are right now? I know you mentioned having to come from Chicago to Atlanta. Like, what's your situation right now? Where are you? What is, the next sort of season look like for you personally?
Yeah, so I was in Atlanta for 7 years, and I just relocated actually a month ago back to Chicago. So this idea of displacement and refinding myself, right? Is just happening all over again in my life. I guess it always is part of my life and everybody else's life. Everybody is growing, getting older, and at this, with growth, right? With aging, you can see that as growth and stepping closer to death. And so for me, just concentrating on my next body of work and where I fit, in this time, in this, place, in this newer yet older place that I need to be home, which is Chicago, and missing Atlanta a lot, because it's cold here currently, as you can see.
Well, thank you for sharing this part of yourself with us and your work. And we can't wait to see you when you come back to Atlanta, however often that may be. But again, thank you. And we're really glad that you were part of this moment.
Thank you, Floyd.
Thank you. Brian, can we play Amanda's video?
Yesterday, a woman came by and told me You know, when I see the figures in your work, I feel like I know these women, and you know, she couldn't have paid me a higher compliment, because I want folks to come and see my mural to feel like, hey, I know her and I should probably check on her. So that's really what Let Me Share the Sky with You is about.
Hello, Amanda.
Hi, Floyd. How are you?
I'm great. I'm great. Glad to have this time with you. Let Me Share the Sky with You. That was your work. That is your work for this exhibition / installation. What I really enjoyed about that comment that you shared in the video was sort of this moment that sort of helps us understand that your work, all these artists' work, really are now part of memories for other people. Like, you created something, but it's not just for you, it's for the public. Other folks connect with that work and they live with that. So I would love for you to maybe kind of just share more about that experience, if there's even more to share, or at least like how that made you feel, or other sort of reflections on your work from the public as you were creating, or just sort of engaging with folks with your work.
Well, for me, I love public art because it is about connection with communities. I think so much of it is about not only involving community voices, but also the process of creating the work kind of in public. You're sort of just out there. Anybody can come talk to you. And that experience, you know, sometimes you have disagreements, or sometimes it's obviously really wonderful. And, you know, every sort of moment, every interaction is a learning experience, certainly as an artist, to just see if your work is really landing with the community that it lives in.
Can you share with us anything about the inspirations for the women in your work? So, you know, as the person who was walking past, you mentioned that, you know, they felt like they knew those women. But I'm wondering who are those women? If there are people in your life who inspired those images, I would love for you to maybe say more about them.
Absolutely. So those women, you know, they're all of us, which is why I think they feel and seem so familiar. Sometimes in my work, I will actually depict specific people, but I've found from doing many murals in public spaces that sometimes it gets a little political in terms of who we depict. And it gets to be sort of like a little contentious. So I typically do composites. And I take a little piece, whether it's, you know, someone's spirit, or something that they've said to me, or, you know, their actual features, and kind of composite them into representative figures that are sort of like guardians for us and for the community.
Can you say more about the title of the work, and what, you know, what were you thinking about in that title, and what does that message convey for you and for, I guess, the rest of us as well?
Sure. So when I was conceiving of the work, I was actually taking a walk through the park and just reflecting on how freeing it was to kind of be in a space where I didn't have to be sort of just wary about how close I was to someone else, whether, you know, my mask was sort of like fitting my face really closely, and just kind of seeing other families around being with each other and caring for each other. And that was just a really beautiful moment. And that's when I decided to make this piece not only about connection, but also about how, you know, the sky is sort of like this background. You know, it's a great sort of canvas where we can imagine dreams and allay fears and really find courage. And I wanted this feeling of serenity and peace, and also kind of comfort and warmth to be imbued in viewers, so that, you know, in this time where things are very uncertain from both a health and economic standpoint, folks can have just like a little bit of comfort when they pass by, and have a little bit of familiarity, so that you know, they can look forward to, you know, these sort of like bright and sunnier moments and times that hopefully are on the horizon.
Indeed, indeed. Well, I can co-sign that passerby and say that when I saw those, when I saw those images, I just felt like, okay, those must be actual people. I need to know who those people are. And so I think it really speaks to the power of the work, in that even if, you know, they are composite images, at the very least, they're making us, you know, consider the folks who we know in our lives and who we may want to reach out to and check in on and just think about in a very warm way. So thank you for that. Thank you for your work. And we really appreciate you giving your time and your talent to this moment. It's really great.
Thank
you. Brian, can you play the next video for Fabian, please?
So I do some of everything when it comes to art. I paint, sculpt, conceptualize, write, tap dance, performance, whatever it takes. My installation is about young Black girls having the freedom to envision a future that they see themselves in. So I feel like we're smack dab in the middle of the future, and I feel like the thing that we need to do most right now is imagine what we're gonna be like, you know, in the next 50 to 100 to 200 years. I would like for young Black kids to see themselves in a future where they're thriving, be it, you know, space or any other place. And I actually used my daughter for this as a model because she's always impressing me with the things that she's teaching herself. And she's also an artist. And I feel like she's a great example of a young person that is using their creativity to create their future.
So, unfortunately, Fabian is away right now in a place where he does not have great internet service. He's working on some work, which we always support. But one of the things that jumped out to me about Fabian in that video, outside of the fact he talked about tap dancing, which I want to come back to with him about some point in time later, but the fact that Fabian really spoke about his work from the context of being a father. And I think that that's very important. We think about the artists oftentimes as very singular individuals in the world, but as they draw inspiration from, you know, partners, children, parents, I think it's just really important to acknowledge the role that the folks who are in their orbit play in how they are creating work and thinking about work. So while we will miss Fabian in this go round, please be sure to connect with his work as you visit the murals and the installations throughout Heart of the Arts. Brian, can you cue up Kristen's video, please?
You know, if nothing else, I want you to feel like you're at the beach. You know what I'm saying? Like, we've been through a really hard year. A lot of people have dealt with a lot of loss, a lot of death, a lot of isolation, a lot of restrictions. You know, the average person just walking down the street, hopefully you can kind of feel, even for a couple of seconds, that you're somewhere else, somewhere more peaceful, somewhere more hopeful and uplifting. So hopefully, you know, that's the reaction that people are having to it. You know, it's been interesting watching people walk by and then just like realize like, oh, whoa, there's like a huge art installation there. So many people walk by and they're just like so used to just kind of being in this weird zone. And then when you see them like realize, like snap out of it, like that's really, I guess, what I'm hoping for that piece can do. Just kind of jar and shake you out of the monotony of kind of the sad times that we're living in right now. Something a little bit more joyful.
Hello, Kristen.
Hey, almost forgot to unmute there, my bad.
No, it's all good. How you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm feeling real good. Glad to be a part of this exhibition and work with everybody. It's been amazing.
Yeah, oh, Kristen. Now, where are you right now? That's an amazing background to know where you are right now.
Since you asked, I'm a shamelessly plug. Me and my friends have an animation company, and I'm like in the middle of a meeting, and another one's about to happen. So I'm at our little workspace, Midtown. We work.
Good.
So
Keeping it on brand in Midtown. Love to see it. One of the things that jumped out to me about your work, and I think for anyone who sees your work in this current context, is there's this emphasis on movement and the body, and how that motion really affects us as we take in the work. So really, I would love you to maybe talk about the notion of the body in your work. We see the body's in motion. We saw a little bit of some of the behind the scenes process with you in that short clip that we watched, but just want to kind of get some of your take on how you fused or how you continue to think about fusing the visual with movement.
Okay. Yeah, so in my work, a lot of times Black bodies are important. So, all the figures that you're seeing, it's all Black people. We spoke a little bit earlier, I think that was Amanda, who was saying about just like the politics of who's represented in art, kind of talking about that a little bit. So, it was important to me to feature, I'm saying, Black bodies on that large of a scale in an exhibition where people would be also moving. So it's almost like there's a movement between what you're looking at on the screen and you just walking by or driving by. Specifically the body also, when I was approached about this, I immediately start thinking about like the mind, body, and the soul as the three, main areas of healing that could take place if we're talking about, living through coronavirus and quarantining and just like all the doom and gloom. I wanted the piece to, in some way be something that also made you feel a little bit of healing. And, I was also told that color was super important. So I wanted color therapy to kind of be an aspect of it as well, getting back to, mind, body, and soul. So something that could speak to you, on different frequencies or on different levels. We talk about physically the body. In my piece, I have, some yoga going on, dance, of course. So yeah, it was just based on what I was given. That's just kind of how I interpreted it.
You mentioned color, and the title of your work is Color Waves, and that is also on brand with this notion of colorful evangelism as the sort of leading theme of this conversation. And I would just love for you to maybe think more about, or say more about, that level of intention of wanting people to feel a certain thing. In your clip, you mentioned wanting people to feel like they were at the beach, or so it's, a bit of an escape from where we may be right now. Just say more say more about that in terms of that notion of that escapism, as well as the waves, the color waves, how all that kind of blends together.
Okay, yeah. Waves, water, color, like all these terms they all kind of just fit together. And if we're talking about being in a different space, I wanted to feel like you were actually transported or teleported somewhere else. I got a 2-channel installation. One of the channels is 360 collage. And if we're talking about space, you feel like you're moving through a space or really rotating around a space as you're watching that piece. So, just want it to be something where you feel, I'm not trying to use like buzzwords, but, like an immersive type experience where, the art itself is something that you arguably are a part of. You have that feeling, you got the music that goes along with it. You have the imagery of somewhere that I'm pretty sure everybody who's walking through a city would much rather be. And if I go back to what I'm saying about, Black bodies and it being important for the representation to be there, I work in a tradition of Afrofuturism. And so I wanted to show Black bodies, in the future, same as Fabian, he's talking about that in his work. If we're thinking about the future, like where you would want to be or where you could be or how you could see yourself in these different settings, that was something that was important to me.
Well, I think you executed it quite well. For those of the folks in the audience who have seen the work, you probably can attest to that. I hope everyone goes out and will hear you talk about it, Kristen, and will go and view the work, because I think that you get this sense of being in a place while standing still, but also feeling like you're moving at the same time. And I think that you really executed your work in a really great way. And just thank you for being a part of this moment and for contributing to Heart of the Arts.
No problem. Thank you all. And I guess the last thing I would say is I wanted to feel like almost like a dream state, like an alternate reality, what I'm saying? So I'm glad to hear that, you kind of feel, it sounds like what I was going for there.
Definitely. Thank you, Kristen. Brian, can you cue up the video for Melissa, please?
My window installation focuses on the relationship between me and my sister. And my older sister has been so important to me my entire life. We've always been very close. The silver lining, I would say, of this entire pandemic situation is that we've actually been communicating more than ever. Tori lives in Denver, I live here in Atlanta. We've been Zooming, we've been FaceTiming, we've been texting. It's kind of nice, we're talking more than ever before. And she's been so important to me, such a resource during this stressful time, and I think that I've been there supporting her too. So I just wanted to capture that relationship in this painting. And I have both of us in this kind of glitchy style painting representing this virtual format. And we're both throwing our heads back and laughing, just having a good time and enjoying each other's company.
Hello, Melissa.
Hey, Floyd.
How you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm glad to be here speaking with you today.
Yeah, glad to have this moment with you as well. Your piece, Laughing with My Sister, 1,400 Miles Apart. As we mentioned earlier to begin this broadcast, the word glitch came up. We had a bit of a glitch at the beginning. Glitch kind of made its way back into the conversation because of your work. Talk about your sister and you all's relationship, and what was sort of the genesis of wanting to really capture that for this work?
That's a really good question. You know, we had a few prompts for things to think about with this project. And one of the things they were interested in was kind of a hopeful perspective on things. What's making us feel hopeful right now? And for me, that really is my relationship with my sister, because I'm here in Atlanta, she's in Denver, and we're both going through a lot of life changes right now. I'm finishing graduate school, and she just had her first baby during the pandemic. So we've really needed a lot of support. And we've actually been talking to each other more and more on a daily basis. And I think that is a silver lining of the pandemic, that we're able to be in constant communication and really just support each other in that way. And, you know, the reason that I included a lot of glitch in this is because so much of our contacts, our ways of supporting each other have been through, you know, this virtual format. And I think that glitch really speaks to that. I know we've all been on that Zoom call where suddenly the image glitches out and you see, you know, your family member disappearing into the wall or something strange like that. And it's just a little nod to the new ways of digitally communicating we have with our family right now.
And, you know, in thinking about that notion of connecting and overcoming those glitches, it feels like even with your work, you know, that there's this space for finding joy despite the glitches, or living through those glitches in our lives, or we learn how to not be so thrown off by the glitches. And so that's what it felt like, you know, both sort of acknowledging that we live in this digital space now, but understanding how we were still able to sort of move forward despite that and still connect through that. So if you could just, you know, say more about any of that, because I didn't know that that's what I would feel when I saw your work again, thinking about it. But I thought, like, you know, like we kind of move through these glitches and we find ways to kind of keep going forward despite that.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I like that, the idea that the glitch is kind of like a little road bump in our lives, like something that's come up and now we're just continuing to move through. I think that's the way a lot of us have been viewing this, like this past year. You know, all of these things are getting thrown up against us, this weird experience, this glitch in our normal experience. And we're kind of using everything that we can, all of our support systems, all of our family members, just to make it through, just to keep going, however we're able. Yeah.
So we do know that you and your sister are 1,400 miles apart at this point, but hopefully, you know, through time and medicine, we all may be able to be with each other more in the future. What is the first thing that you and your sister will do once you see each other? Like, what's the first thing you want to do when y'all see each other for the first time in person this next time?
I really want to meet my nephew in person. I'm going to scoop her kid up and just give him so many kisses. He's the first grandchild in the family, so it has been kind of a weird experience that we weren't able to necessarily be there in person to like experience all of the newness of that. And my sister is an avid outdoorsman, so I think that the first thing she'll make us do is probably take her son, take our spouses, and we'll go for a really nice long hike. Nice long hike together. It'll just be so nice to see her in person again. You know, the experience of just being like with each other, being able to hug each other. I'm very much looking forward to that.
And just really quickly, what's been her response to the actual work?
She is, she loves it. You know, she actually, when I sent her a picture, she said, "Oh my goodness, my head is enormous." But she really likes that I made a piece that's just about our relationship. We have been really fortunate that we're very close as sisters. You know, I know a lot of sisters fight, they don't get along. And, you know, she's always just been, I've always been able to look up to her, and she's been very protective of me in a way. And I like being able to honor that in a sense.
Awesome. Well, I'm hopeful that you all will be able to reunite very soon. But in the meantime, thank you for your work in Heart of the Arts. I think it really captures what a lot of people feel or have been feeling in this moment, and just so glad that we could talk about it today. So thank you.
Thank you, Floyd.
Brian, could you cue up the video for Shaniqua?
Memory is really important, and to maybe research what this artwork is about, and to see what we can do as a community of people, as a village, to make sure we're keeping our children safe, right? So when we're making decisions as adults, and when we're making decisions that put only ourselves first and forward, we're forgetting that there's a ripple effect to that, that there's a domino effect to that, that what I do does actually affect someone else. And so I want us to be responsible members in the village that we call Atlanta.
Good afternoon, Shaniqua Gay. How are you?
Good afternoon, Floyd Hall. I'm well.
Glad to have some time with you this afternoon. A couple things, more than a couple things, stand out about what you mentioned in that video. But first, I do want to acknowledge the title of this talk as Colorful Evangelism. That was a phrase that you coined in a previous talk. And so thinking about all of the work that everyone has put forth, so much color in these storefronts. There's a nod to the storefront churches of today and even in years past. But just thinking about the color that we've seen that's sort of washed over us in this moment, I want to at least acknowledge your term for this. But in thinking about the actual work that you created, you mentioned that you wanted Sequoia Turner's spirit to live on as a saint. And I would love for you to maybe shed some light on this notion of this duality between the human and the spiritual, and how, someone like Sequoia and her scenario or the circumstances that led to her death sort of play out and should still be, held as a memory for us.
Yeah. So Dr. Cynthia Dillard has a statement or a quote. She says, remembering the things we've learned to forget, right? And there is, the goal here is to remember her not as someone that was slaughtered, but to remember her as now an ancestor, even as young as she is, right? She's now an ancestor. How often do you see sainthood for children outside of Christ, right? And so when we're talking about glorifying or
seeing one as holy. We are those things here. We just happen to have on an earth suit. You know, you're illegal if you don't have on an earth suit. That makes you an alien. That makes you a part of the other world. And so I think it's really important to reverence her in a space of memory as something good, protected, and as holy.
You also mentioned in your video clip, you mentioned Atlanta as a village. And I think that that's important to acknowledge. You know, Atlanta as a city, you know, can function in a very intimate way.
Right.
And so I would love for you to maybe shed some perspective on that and why that's important, you know, to acknowledge and should also inform how we treat the spaces that we move into in Atlanta.
Right. Atlanta's a town. It's not a city. Cities are 24 hours like Chicago or New York, right? You know, Atlanta's still a lot smaller than we like to give it credit for. We are not a little New York. And by and large, we are still very much, I'll say or posit that we are a village. And we are thinking from a village mindset. Village means to protect one another and to operate as though we are a community. And the most important persons in our community are our children, right? And so if we were in a village, maybe out in the jungle, we would be trying to protect our children from lions and tigers and bears, right? Only here in modernity, adults happen to be the lions and the tigers and the bears, which is most unfortunate. And so I think when we put aside or lay aside social issues and the false hierarchies that we make for each other through racism, through gender inequalities, all of these hierarchies that we create in order to make ourselves feel better than one another. If we flatten the plane and recognize that we are all spiritual beings housed in earth suits and that we love, cover, and protect each other, it makes it easier to function amongst one another, no? And so I think it's really important, that we operate in that. It's unfortunate that Sequoia died on the 4th of July, Independence Day. What a day to be killed. And so how are we covering and protecting not just our children, but how are we being good caretakers of one another?
Well, I think your work really inspires us to think through a lot of how we move as folks in this village. And even if the work isn't easily read or understood, I think there's something spiritual about the work that at least causes you to just reflect on a spirit, the spirit, you know, multiple spirits. And I would love for you to maybe, you know, just talk us through, if there is any difference, how you approach your 2D work versus the extension of your work into a 3-dimensional, you know, space via your totem heads. I know you kind of blend some of those in different installations, but as your work continues to evolve, I'm just curious about how you think about creating those totems as a, you know, vis-a-vis working in, you know, in purely a painterly perspective.
So it's the opportunity to work outside of a flat plane. And then it's also the opportunity to, I guess, kind of create a larger thought in the space. And I have no intentions for my work to be seen as an easy lay, if you will. I'm not looking for everyone to be able to get it. But I am hoping that people have a good takeaway. You know, from an Indigenous worldview, you bring in the natural or the animal or the outer world in order to transform and shake up things, in order to create change, in order to create some type of radical transformation. And so we obviously, in the places where our communities and societies are most wounded, we do need to shake some stuff up, because what we're doing right now ain't working. And so I'm looking for ways to share those thoughts through color and design. When you're talking about hierarchies and first creatures of beings, nature comes first, and then animals, and then people. And, from a higher conscious standpoint, nature and animals, they don't have to use words, and neither do visual artists. We speak through color and design and structure, right? So like I'm putting artists at the higher form of the plane too, because I'm biased. But trying to use the language of pattern, color, and design, as well as sculpture, to translate an idea.
Well, we thank you for still and continuing to elevate artists to that next plane of our consciousness and our thought. And with this work, I think that it really helps to continue helping us always questioning where we are, who we are, how we're moving around in this space. And I think that provides a really valuable contribution to who we are, what we do, and the entire village of Atlanta. So thank you, Shaniqua.
Thank you, Floyd Hall.
For all of us in attendance who are watching and taking all of this in, we thank all of the artists who have contributed to this Midtown Heart of the Arts Sidewalk Talk, Colorful Evangelism. And hopefully you've felt inspired and you've satisfied some curiosity around the work. Hopefully you'll go revisit a lot of this work after you've heard these conversations. But now, with that being said, we have a big announcement. But to sort of prep you for that big announcement, we're going to welcome Lauren and Jean back to the conversation. Jean, Lauren, come on down. Well, come on in.
Hello.
Unmute. Jean, Kansas, Lauren, are you here also, Lauren? Can I hear you?
I'm here, yeah.
Hey, all right. This has been an amazing conversation, and we've talked offline about the notion of artists and this collaborative approach to how artists create space or create within space in the built environment. And so, I would love Jean to kind of hear your thoughts on hearing these artists talk about their work in space, and you as someone who is in real estate and development who helps create space and foster space and hold space for artists. Just what are your thoughts on this conversation today?
It's been an incredible education, really. And there's a lot of things that are, and I mean this in the best possible way, superficial in terms of joy. There's some things that are really deep and even painful that are also good to like hear, learn about, and go through. And I commend each of you all. It's moving work. I was thinking about the title for today, colorful, this light, lively, bright, vibrant, evangelism, spreading the good word basically, and also advocacy for a cause. And because it's all in concert with spaces and places in Midtown and these storefronts, I think it makes it particularly relevant when you think about that occupying of space, that connection to space, and really the relationship of people and space to place. They're required reciprocality, and art is subjective, and I hope my personal understanding of your art is seen as that, just one person's opinion. I see all of your art as this relationship, this care and this connecting. And I just made some notes. I mean, it's Chioma connecting with friends, Kaylee with nature and connecting, Kristen, I think that connection between self and joy, Shaniqua, this, memory as memorial, a village, connecting and responsibly so, Fabian, connecting with young Black kids and the future. And Amanda with connecting with women, Melissa to her sister and connecting. And that personal connection that you all are making, those relationships and sharing it with us allows us to connect with place. And, we're all kind of in residence, so to speak, on the planet, in this country, in Atlanta, and through these storefronts because of you. So that's a long-winded answer of saying that the connecting is important, and today has been amazing. And of course, Floyd, you bring it all, out through this amazing conversation.
Thank you for that, Gene. And I think that what we've witnessed today, I think hopefully we'll again spur everyone to go revisit the work. Now that you've heard the artists talk about the work, now let's go back and revisit the work, because then it may mean something different to you that next time around. But Lauren, I want to turn it over to you to give some somewhat closing thoughts on behalf of Midtown Alliance, but also to make a big announcement.
Yeah, thank you, Floyd. Let me just kind of echo Gene's sentiment about connecting and connectedness. And, I feel so energized and inspired by hearing these voices. And I did at our last Sidewalk talk a couple weeks ago as well. And that's just been really cool for me, because, I think we've all felt a little worn down the last few months. Everything has felt so heavy and important. And so it's just kind of reminded me the importance of artwork and having these voices in our community to help us, see those connections that the artists have embodied in their work, but also our connection to each other and to humanity. And I think a lot of our goals in this installation and exhibition was a connection between, present and past and where we go from here. It's as optimistic as it is right now, with beautiful weather outside, at least in Atlanta. Sorry, Kaylee. And with vaccines on the way, it feels like we're kind of coming to a culmination. But I get a little nervous about the phrase "back to normal." I think that's not what we want necessarily, right? And so through these beautiful works of art and these artists' voices, it's been a really great opportunity to reflect on, where do we go from here, and how do we meet this moment, and what does our community, what does our village look like going forward? And so I guess the exciting announcement is there's a lot more plans to include art in that conversation, right? And to enable those types of community conversations by making a deliberate space for artists to be a part of the Midtown community. And so in launching the Heart of the Arts program, it's Midtown Alliance's commitment to show more artwork like this, to include more artists like all of the beautiful people on the screen, and to have more of these incredibly important and engaging dialogues. And so the new announcement is that we are rolling out an artist residency program. So we will physically be making space for artists to work in our district. And so we'll be opening a call week from tomorrow, next Monday. So please be on the lookout for that. If you are an artist or know one, please watch for that application process to go live. But just for the Midtown community in general, I just really invite you to check out these artists and their work and get excited to have more conversations like these. Part of the goal of this program is to kind of invite artists to be active members of our community, but it's also opportunities for the community to engage with the arts and kind of try to dissolve the border between artists and non-artists. We really want to kind of get everybody involved in the creative process and involved in these conversations and this visioning for Midtown and Atlanta and our community. So please be on the lookout for a lot more exciting things, starting with a brand new artist in residency program
we're talking to 3 property owners right now, and that'll be the plan, to place 3 artists in Midtown properties in 2021. But the ultimate goal is, you know, a really robust network of artists working in Midtown.
That's amazing. Thank you for that, Lauren. So be on the lookout for that call, that application, as Lauren mentioned, a week from tomorrow. So be on the lookout for that. Thanks to everyone who chimed in to take in this conversation. Thanks to Jean. Thanks to all of the artists. Thank you to Netta, curator, who kind of, again, is the engine behind all of this. And we thank you all for being a part of Sidewalk Talk, episode 2, Colorful Evangelism. There's a map, as you can see here, but we also encourage you to visit midtownatl.com/arts to see this map in full, to go revisit the work, and to, again, connect with all of the art that these artists have created. Connect and follow and share all of your thoughts and your images when you are on IG or Twitter or Facebook or wherever. But just please connect with this work. Thanks to the partners who all gave of themselves to help make this possible. Again, the artists primarily, who this does not happen without you all. So again, thanks to these amazing Atlanta artists to help make Heart of the Arts what it is. So again, we appreciate all of your time this afternoon on a Sunday, and we can't wait till the next time. Thank you, and we'll see y'all later.